clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now, if it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
Ain't nothing changed, nothing new here to see. This ain't nothing but some political maneuvering.
America.
Welcome to the eulogy, eat it up. It's called political buffoonery.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to This Week in DUMBmocracy, where we showcase some of the dumbest newsmakers of the week. The Senate confirmation hearings of Donald Trump's cabinet nominees kicked off this week. On Tuesday, the first hearing happened in the Senate Armed Services Committee, where Pete Hegseth, the nominee for Secretary of Defense, was grilled for a couple of hours by both Democrats and Republicans. As you can imagine, it got very contentious when Democrats were questioning Hegseth, who's not exactly the most perfect nominee out there for this position, based upon his personal history, his professional background, his education. We'll get into that a little bit. But because this was the Senate, I thought that maybe, possibly, for once, we would see this august body not be dragged through the mud with really unseemly questions or inadequate questions or just unskillful questions. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, because we got to talk about Virginia Democratic Senator Tim Kaine, who went off on a line of questioning that was not only improper, but my goodness, the hypocrisy of Tim Kaine asking what he was asking about Pete Hegseth's personal life. It's got to be examined. We're going to talk about this line of questioning, how Hegseth dealt with it, and the reaction from another senator, Markwayne Mullin, who took exception to the line of questioning that Tim Kaine actually tried to accomplish at this hearing. But before we get to all the details, and I'm being vague intentionally because, wow, you got to see this, I'm going to ask you guys to please subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other shows, and if you like what you see in here in this or any other video on this channel, well, you guys know what to do already. You're going to smash the thumbs up button, you're going to like, comment, share the show with your friends, all that really good stuff, because all that's going to help this channel grow and grow and grow via the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, it must feed.
As always, gang, thank you so much for all that you do to help grow the channel, whether you're watching on YouTube, on Rumble, on X, wherever it is that you are, liking and commenting and sharing and subscribing or following, whatever it is on whatever platform you're on. Thanks for doing what you're doing. And for all you newbies who may have found this channel for the first time, wherever you're watching, I'm glad you're here, and I hope that this video earns your subscription as we look back on Tim Kaine's hypocrisy in pursuing a line of questioning towards Pete Hegseth that shows really a shocking lack of self-awareness on his part. Oh, I forgot to mention, BuffoonofTheWeek.com is back up and running. We updated the website, we added links to get to our merch shop, to get the book that I've been talking about for years and years now. There's great content there and a whole lot of other tomfoolery that you can check out if you register for the site. It doesn't cost you anything to do it, but check it all out at BuffoonofTheWeek.com.
This guy is a grifter.
Okay, gang, I'm done grifting, I promise. Well, at least for now anyway. So let's get to this line of questioning that I've been hyping up. Tim Kaine is going to talk about Pete Hegseth's personal life. He admits to having an affair in 2017, but also in the context of this affair, there was some alleged charges, or at least an accusation, of sexual abuse that happened in Monterey, California. Tim Kaine is about to go headlong into this line of questioning that gets really uncomfortable really fast.
I want to return to the incident that you referenced a minute ago that occurred in Monterey, California in October 2017. At that time, you were still married to your second wife, correct?
I believe so.
And you had just fathered a child by a woman who would later become your third wife, correct?
Senator, I was falsely charged, fully investigated, and completely cleared.
So you think you were completely cleared because you committed no crime. That's your definition of cleared? You had just fathered a child 2 months before by a woman that was not your wife. I am shocked that you would stand here and say you're completely cleared. Can you so casually cheat on a second wife and cheat on the mother of a child that had been born 2 months before, and you tell us you are completely cleared?
Get off your high f***ing horse.
So obviously this is like Jerry Springer material, right? Pete Hegseth was apparently married to his second wife and was fathering his child with a third woman that turned out to be his third wife, and then was cheating on both of them with another woman that we don't know who she is in Monterey, California, who ended up making accusations that turned out to be unfounded concerning sexual abuse.
Everybody got that?
It's a lot to take in right now. And Tim Kaine is apparently playing the morality police, because even though the police did not find any criminal behavior in this whole tawdry thing here, Tim Kaine is now going to try to be his judge, I guess, his moral judge. Like I said, he's the morality police at this point, trying to shame Hegseth during this hearing, and I guess call into question his judgment. Now, I get it. This is what's been happening since time immemorial when it comes to politics. But let's get real for a second here. Tim Kaine, former vice presidential nominee alongside Hillary Clinton, is trying to lecture about morality.
Well, don't that beat all?
Where was this same energy when he was on the campaign trail back in 2016, being buddy-buddy with Hillary and Bill Clinton, who, I don't know if you guys know this, maybe some of you are too young to know this, but look it up. He had a few, let's call them indiscretions of his own, as well as more than a few accusations. Let's continue on, shall we?
How is that a complete clear?
Senator, her child's name is Gwendolyn Hope Hegseth, and she's a child of God, and she's 7 years old.
And she was, and you cheated on the mother of that child less than 2 months after that daughter was born, didn't you?
Those were false charges.
Well,
It was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared. And I am so grateful for the marriage I have to this amazing woman behind me.
You've admitted that you had sex at that hotel on October 2017. You said it was consensual, isn't that correct?
Anything,
You've admitted that it was consensual, and you were still married, and you just had a child by another woman.
again,
How do you explain your judgment?
completely false charges against me.
You
Fully investigated, and I was completely clear.
You have admitted that you had sex while you were married to wife 2 after you just had fathered a child by wife 3. You've admitted that. Now,
Okay, we get it. He had some bad judgment in his personal life. I think we know for a fact that many of our leaders, including people you're buddy-buddy with, Tim, they all have failings in their personal life. There's nobody perfect out there. Tim Hegseth, maybe more imperfect than a lot of other people you may run into, but he's admitted it here. He's presented himself to the committee to discuss it. And the points he's trying to make is that there was nothing disqualifying in this. And let's be clear. President Trump, multiple marriages, he's had affairs. Bill Clinton, he's had affairs and other accusations. Donald Trump, other accusations as well. We saw it during the campaign last year. Nobody is perfect out there. And I guess let the politician that is perfect cast the first stone. This is completely hypocritical from Tim Kaine here. And I discuss hypocrisy a lot in my book, Schnooks, Crooks, Lies, and Scoundrels, a field guide to identifying political buffoons, available right now on Amazon, at Barnes & Noble, and other online bookstores, including at buffoonoftheweek.com. I told you the grifting was almost over.
Liar!
We all know what hypocrisy is. We're talking about the everyday usage of the word. A person who casts stones without remembering that they too have failings. We get that Tim Kaine wants to put Pete Hegseth in a bad light here. Mission accomplished. You did it. You kind of pressed that button really hard, though, to the point where you're seeming holier than thou.
Fredo Hippocrates. Pot calling the kettle black.
There's a morality police out there that's going to say, oh, Pete Hegseth, he did bad thing, therefore he cannot be Secretary of Defense because he did bad thing that has nothing to do with defense. Okay, cool. You want to be on the moral high ground? You do you. But Tim Kaine, who pals around with people who are less than perfect and enjoyed their company, was going to be the vice president to Hillary Clinton. I don't even want to call her a potential president. Let's not talk about that anymore. But you get what I'm saying here, right? What he does next, though, is even worse. And this offends me as an attorney that questions witnesses quite a bit.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
It was a false claim then and a false claim now.
If it had been a sexual assault, that would be disqualifying to be Secretary of Defense, wouldn't it?
That was a false claim.
So
He's
you
talking
can't,
about a hypothetical.
So you can't tell me whether someone who has committed a sexual assault is disqualified from being Secretary of Defense?
You see what he's doing here? He's intimating that, well, if something were to be found of an assault, that would be disqualifying. He's trying to talk about hypotheticals while Hegseth is trying to talk about his own actual record. Kaine is really trying to do guilt by implication here. It's really a seedy, unseemly, disgusting tactic that would never work in any courtroom that I know of. I would be jumping up and down, banging on the desk, screaming objection to this line of questioning. But because this is political, not necessarily legal, and because Tim Kaine has sort of this protection from defamation that comes along with being an elected official, he gets to get away with this bullshit. And he's going to keep on doing this. This is further overplaying his hand. And as you'll see later on in the clip when we get to a response from the Republicans, even more hypocritical. But we'll get there in a little bit.
Senator, I know in my instance, and I'm talking about my instance only, it was a false claim.
But you acknowledge,
and it was fully investigated.
that you cheated on your wife and that you cheated on the woman by whom you had just fathered a child. You have been.
And again, in a courtroom, objection, repetition, and the judge would tell you to move on. We get it, Tim, but you're trying to do some really shitty tactics right now, and I don't like it.
Admitted that.
I will allow your words to speak for themselves.
You're not retracting that today. That's good. I assume that in each.
And there's another tactic that pisses me off when it comes to these committee hearings. When the members of the body get to say on the record what their conclusion is, their conclusory statement that has no basis in fact of what the witness had said. Well, you're not answering my question, so I'm just going to assume what I want to assume. It's another dirty tactic that I frequently see in these committee hearings, and I see it on both sides. I don't like it. You shouldn't either. Not that I'm telling you what to think, but I'm hoping you join me on this trip.
Each of your weddings, you've pledged to be faithful to your wife. You've taken an oath to do that, haven't you?
Senator, as I've acknowledged to everyone in this committee, I'm not a perfect person, I'm not claiming to be.
But no, I just asked a simple question. You've taken an oath like you would take an oath to be Secretary of Defense and all of your weddings to be faithful to your wife. Is that correct?
I have failed in things in my life, and thankfully I'm redeemed by my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
In finalizing divorces from your first and second wives, were there non-disclosure agreements in connection with those divorces?
Senator, not that I'm aware of.
If there were, would you agree to release those first and second wives from any confidentiality agreement?
Senator, it's not something I'm aware of.
But if there were, you would agree to release them from a confidentiality agreement?
Senator, that's not my responsibility.
Did you ever engage in any acts of physical violence against any of your wives?
Now wait just a goddamn minute.
All right, there's nothing in the record that was presented either in the public or to the committee that has anything near that sort of line of questioning. First of all, again, the implication that there would be NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, among spouses. I don't know where he's getting that from. And again, assuming that there were some, you'd give it to us, right? It's the same bullshit tactic. But now we're wading into an area that is completely beyond the pale here. Again, think about the people he's palled around with. Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton has similar actual accusations from named persons that I'm not going to talk about here, but I'm sure you can look it up on your own. And yet, with nothing, no basis in fact, no good faith basis, Tim Kaine is going down a road he definitely shouldn't go down. It's frankly disgusting.
Senator, absolutely not.
But you would agree with me that if someone had committed physical violence against a spouse, that would be disqualifying to serve as Secretary of Defense, correct?
Oh, God, not this again.
I mean, you see it, right? It's the same bullshit hypothetical that we were just talking about earlier. I am cursing a lot in this video. It's because I know how to do a proper line of questioning, I guess. And there are more effective ways of doing things like this. You touch on it, you get the admission you want, you move on. You don't muddy the waters with all of these fantasies and hypotheticals out there that aren't based in fact. It makes you look like you're grasping for something, anything, to further cement your point. And it turns out that you look like the buffoon in doing that. Especially, as I pointed out earlier, you pal around with people who have been accused of similar, if not exactly the same thing.
Senator, absolutely not have I ever done that.
You would agree that that would be a disqualifying offense, would you not?
Senator, you're talking about a hypothetical.
I don't think it's a hypothetical. Violence against spouses occurs every day.
Are you kidding me right now?
But it's a hypothetical as it pertains to this nominee. Of course it's a hypothetical, you blithering idiot. This is disgusting.
And if you as a leader are not capable of saying that physical violence against a spouse should be a disqualifying fact for being secretary of the most powerful nation in the world, you're demonstrating an astonishing lack of judgment.
We get it. Move on.
Much has been made of your workplace behavior as a leader of nonprofit veterans organizations and as a Fox News contributor. Were you fired from either of the leadership positions with the nonprofits?
I was the leader. I was the CEO of Concerned Veterans for America and the executive director of Vets for Freedom.
Were you fired from either
and I was
of them?
never fired from a veterans organization.
Do you have non-disclosure agreements with either of those organizations?
Not that I'm aware of, Senator.
Many of your work colleagues have said that you show up for work under the influence of alcohol or drunk. I know you've denied that, but you would agree with me, right, that if that was the case, that would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense.
Senator.
Same bullshit. It's the same thing over and over and over again. This is the equivalent of, so how many times did you beat your wife? You know that old adage? Jeez Louise, Tim Kaine. He's doing such a disservice to any sort of good work, good, incredible work that the Democrats tried to do in this committee hearing. And there were definitely some points that Democrats went down the road of that seemed pretty credible, like past statements he made about readiness in the military, about women in the military, things like that, women in combat. And he tried to answer those questions as best he could. And honestly, I don't think the Democrats did as good of a job as they could have because of questioning like this from Tim Kaine that are going to be the headline, or at least, you know, these articles that do the top 5 takeaways from this hearing. This is going to be one of the glaring ones that sort of detracts from any sort of good work that Democrats did here. But this is the business he's chosen, so we're going to pursue it till the end here.
Those are all anonymous false claims, and the totality
They're not anonymous.
The letters on the record here.
They're not anonymous.
On the record, people
We've seen records with names
Vets
attached
for Freedom,
to them.
Concerned Vets for America, and Fox News
One of your colleagues
working
said,
hard every day on behalf of
one of
my
your
mission.
colleagues said that you got drunk at an event at a bar and chanted, "Kill all Muslims." Another colleague, not anonymous, we have this, said that you took co-workers to a strip club. You were drunk, you tried to dance with strippers, you had to be held off the stage, and one of your employees in that event filed a sexual harassment charge as a result of it. Now, I know you denied these things, but isn't that the kind of behavior that, if true, would be disqualifying for somebody to be Secretary of Defense?
More pearl clutching from the pal of the Clintons. I mean, I know I'm hitting this over and over and over again, but I just want to emphasize Tim Kaine is a douchebag.
You said it.
So let's take a breath here, and when we come back, we're going to look at Markwayne Mullin, who's also on the committee on the Republican side, take Tim Kaine to the woodshed for that ridiculous line of questioning. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show.
Senator Kaine, or I guess I better use the senator from Virginia, starts bringing up the fact that what if you showed up drunk to your job? How many senators have showed up drunk to vote at night? Have any of you guys asked them to step down and resign from their job? And don't tell me you haven't seen it, because I know you have. And then
coming in hot, Markwayne Mullin is talking to the Democrats about Tim Kaine's line of questioning and basically saying, let thee without sin cast the first stone. Specifically bringing up senators appearing at votes drunk. I have no doubt this happens. My only question is, does this happen to Tim Kaine? And by the way, Tim Kaine, let's play your game for a moment here. Don't you think that if a senator shows up to a vote drunk, that senator is disqualified from being a senator? I mean, you would agree that if a senator shows up intoxicated for a vote, that is disqualifying, right? The same sort of BS analysis I'm now throwing back right at Tim Kaine. What do you think about that? Did you keep up the same energy when you see colleagues showing up intoxicated to work? Did you show up intoxicated for work, Tim Kaine? I mean, it's only fair to question that if this were to happen, hypothetically, of course, that if you were drinking at a time when you're supposed to be at work, performing the work of the people, voting on issues of concern, that would disqualify you, right, Tim Kaine? You see how this game can be played over and over again? I'm sure he would be offended by that question and refuse to answer it and say, well, I don't do that. But that's sort of the point here. When you taste your own medicine and it's pretty damn bitter, maybe stop serving it out to everyone else. But Markwayne Mullin, he's not done yet. Check it out.
how many senators do you know have got a divorce before cheating on their wives? Did you ask them to step down? No, but it's for show. You guys make sure you make a big show and point out the hypocrisy because the man's made a mistake. And you want to sit there and say that he's not qualified? Give me a joke. I mean, it is so ridiculous that you guys hold yourself as this higher standard and you forget you got a big plank in your eye.
You holier than thou, high and mighty, highfalutin Democrats on that side of the aisle, the same Democrats like Tim Kaine that buddy with Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, many other figures who maybe we don't know in the public have cheated on their spouses that may be sitting on that committee right now for all we know, or who show up drunk or have, an addiction issue or whatever the case may be. You dare to sit in judgment of another person when you yourself have the same unclean hands? But yet you don't keep up the energy that you present to an adversary from across the aisle, like a Pete Hegseth, because they're the enemy. That's the bad orange man's guy. That's the person from the devil incarnate. You have to go after them. You must go after them. It is incumbent upon you to go after them, right? Markwayne Mullin is calling them out in real time for their hypocrisy, as represented by Tim Kaine and that bullshit line of questioning. And I'm here for it. Markwayne Mullin, he's a hero fighting against buffoonery in politics, and I love it.
We've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. And Jennifer, thank you for loving him through that mistake. Because the only reason why I'm here and not in prison is because my wife loved me too.
Sorry, is this an overshare? Am I oversharing?
I have changed, but I'm not perfect. But I found somebody that thought I was perfect. And for whatever reason, you love Pete, and I don't know why. But just like our Lord and Savior forgave me, my wife's had to forgive me more than once too, and I'm sure you've had to forgive him too. And so thank you.
I love how he turns this from a negative to a positive, because anyone watching this who's ever screwed up something in their life, whether it be something personal, professional, whatever the case may be, stories of redemption are things we love in society because we know that we would want that same redemption in our life. Markwayne Mullin, in pointing out the hypocrisy on the left and spinning it this way, very, very effective in my opinion, undoes all the damage that Tim Kaine thinks that he did by pointing out all of Hegseth's personal failings, which Markwayne Mullin now is showing is a strength of the togetherness of his family. And listen, I'm eating this up. Let me know if you're eating that up as well.
So before I go down this rabbit hole again, tell me something about your wife that you love.
She's the smartest, most capable, loving, humble, honest person I've ever met. In addition to being incredibly beautiful.
Don't forget about your kids.
I'm supposed to talk about my kids?
No, well, she's also the mother.
Oh, an amazing mother.
Yes.
Of our
yes.
blended family of 7
Brother,
kids.
I'm pulling you along. I'm trying to help you here.
Oh, a little levity goes a long way, especially in these long marathon hearings. And it certainly does a lot to humanize Pete Hegseth for anybody watching the hearing. Completely undoes what Tim Kaine tried to do. So there you have it. Tim Kaine overplayed his hand, showed a shocking lack of self-awareness about his own associations, and gets called out by a colleague for not keeping up the holier-than-thou energy when it comes to the similar shortcomings of colleagues that Tim Kaine views favorably. It's a complete analysis of hypocrisy being established, ignored by the person offering the hypocrisy, and then getting called out on it and roundly shamed by a colleague of similar stature.
The man's a buffoon.
Well, that's it for me, gang. Let me know what you think in the comments. And remember, as always, like and share the video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any other shows. Where do you fall on this? Do you think Tim Kaine did a good job here? Do you think he did a horrible job and agree with me? Let's talk about it in the comments, and let's keep this theme going when it comes to further confirmation hearings and perceived failings of the nominees. And let's examine whether these buffoons in office are going to overplay their hand similarly like this. And of course, as we go through the week, I hope you're here to discuss all the other shenanigans and buffoonery happening every day this week in DUMBmocracy.
All views and opinions expressed here are not necessarily of the mainstream media and may offend some listeners. It's called political buffoonery.